All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Spring Band and Orchestra Concert. We are so happy you are here, and we're excited to perform for you tonight. Before we start, I wanted to acknowledge, if you were here last night, you remember it was just a tiny bit warm, and our maintenance staff worked really, really hard to get it at a more acceptable temperature today. When the power went out, yes. When the power stuff happened last week, there were some fuses that blew up on the roof, and I know one of the maintenance guys was in Sarver today trying to get this part. So we got up to 50% of the system working. But they spent all day on it. So thanks to Evan and Matt and Rob Peace for working on all that for us today. Okay, as we get started here, we will have each tune, most of the tunes introduced by students. So our first student that's going to introduce is Casey. So come on up.
Hi, my name is Casey M. The first piece the 6th grade band will perform tonight is called Bells. The concert opener will feature the percussion section. Dramatic fanfares will contrast with melodic lines which interact with the keyboard percussion instruments, which creates a unique musical atmosphere. We hope you enjoy Bells.
Hi, my name is Brady Smith. The next piece the band will perform you'll recognize the music from Trolls. However, it is originally written as a programmatic piece of music which is called In the Hall of the Mountain King. The quickening tempo throughout the piece provides a challenge for the players, as well as enjoyable experience for the listener. We hope you enjoy In the Hall of the Mountain King.
As our next reader makes their way up here, who is Mr. Schroth, we are fortunate most semesters to have student teachers from IUP. IUP is a great asset to our community. And this semester we had two student teachers, Mr. Alex Robbins and Mr. Justin Bianconi. So you will see them up here tonight leading the bands in different capacities. So I think the next tune is being conducted by Mr. Bianconi, and Jacob will introduce the tune.
Hi, my name is Jacob Schroth. Sit back as we take you to the street where Elmo, Big Bird, Oscar the Grouch, and Cookie Monster call, which is none other than the famous Sesame Street. Released in 1969, this theme song was unchanged for the first 23 seasons of the TV show. Feel free to sing along. Sunny day, sweep the cloud on to where the air is sweet. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street?
Hi, my name is John Fordyce. The final piece you will hear in the 6th grade band performance is called Guardians of Liberty. It is dedicated to the men and women of the United States Armed Forces serving as Guardians of Liberty around the world. We hope you enjoy Guardians of Liberty.
I say it almost every concert, but one of my favorite things about middle school is how the growth that they make from one concert to the next. And all of that, I wanted to also give a shout out to Mr. Saylor and Mr. Kemmer, who get these guys all started in 4th and 5th grade. Because of that robust program we have at that grade level, when they're here in 6th grade, we can just start pouring gas on it and it goes. So thanks to those guys. Okay, we're gonna have a scene change. These guys will be back in the combined band later. We're gonna switch to the string octet, and we'll be with you hopefully in just a moment.
Good? Good evening, everyone. So the group down here in front is the junior high string octet, which if you know what an octet is, no, you are not counting wrong. There are more than 8 of them. We started out as an octet at the beginning of the year. There were 2 students who, for whatever reason, couldn't be here all the time, and so we formulated an octet. And then when their schedules sort of changed and they could be here, and they came to me and said, Dr. Rommel, can we be in the octet? And I was like, but it's already named octet, you know? So I added them in because I'm a softie, but then we just decided to keep the name. So we are octet plus 2, I guess. Technically 3 because I'm playing also. So this group went on the road yesterday. A huge shout out to the Hilton Garden Inn. We did this last year too. We had a really nice event yesterday where we went over to the lobby of the Hilton Garden Inn and played in that beautiful lobby while people were eating lunch. And was that just yesterday? That was just yesterday. And then they fed us, so we had a really nice lunch too. And Amelia's mom, the manager over there, thanked us for coming. And I said, we got out of school and played music in a beautiful space and got to eat really good food. So thank you to them. All right, so this is the junior high octet, 7th and 8th graders. We're gonna play 2 pieces of music for you. The first one is called Ancient Airs and Dances. And the second one is called Prelude to Te Deum, which you will probably recognize because it gets played at weddings a lot. So if anybody wants to get married tonight, just let us know. We got the music ready to go. All right, now if all went according to plan, those curtains will open soon. Actually, I think I'm opening them, so they'll open as soon as I get up there, and the orchestra will be behind there, so let's find out. You guys can start making your way to the stairs. Let me go get the curtain open. All right, it worked. They're all here. So this is the junior high orchestra, and it's the only group in the school that is 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, which is super fun because at the beginning of the year, the older kids were like, who are these 6th graders, you know, like invading our group. They forget that they were 6th graders at one point. And the 6th graders' eyes were like this big around because they were thinking, wow, this music's hard. I got to play 8th grader music. And now they're just like one big happy group, and they do a really great job. So we've got 4 tunes to play for you, and I'm going to let the kids introduce them. So Cassidy, come on up.
Hello, my name is Cassidy Barron, and welcome to the Spring Orchestra Concert. Our first selection is by Doug Spada and is titled Gargoyles.
Good evening. My name is Emily Maddie. Our next piece tells a story of Professor Wigstein, who invents a machine that recreates famous orchestral melodies. Unfortunately, the machine breaks down at the end. Please enjoy Professor Wigstein's Amazing Melody Machine by Richard Meyer.
Two quick things about this piece. One is just because it's sort of a storytelling piece, there are lots of breaks in it. So wait to be sure that we're done before you clap. And then the other thing is I wanted to thank Dom Dongilla and Emery Derry, who are two band members who are helping us out on percussion in the studio.
Hi, my name is Brennan Saxfield. Our next piece takes us back in time to 1730. We hope you enjoy Antonio Vivaldi's Concerto in D, arranged by Bob Phillips.
I'm Annie Stubbe. Our final selection is from perhaps the greatest movie score of all time, John Williams' Star Wars. We hope you've enjoyed the Junior High Orchestra.
All right, we're going to have another one of those quick transitions. Curtains are going to close. These guys are going to disappear, and Mr. Karcher is going to be down front with a really exciting group that I'm sure you're going to be very interested in hearing. So we'll be back in just a minute.
Go get 6. Just run up there and get 6. Joseph, are you out there? Joseph, you should be up here in 6th grade. Okay, as we get set up here, I've been trying to think about how to explain this group, but in a nutshell, America turns 250 years old next year. And a friend of mine, Mr. Paul Rode from Penn's Manor, had a Civil War drum and fife corps several years ago, and we were talking last summer and said, how cool would it be if we kind of did a countywide drum and fife group to be a part of the America 250 celebration that's going to be happening. It's already starting. Like tomorrow in White Township here, they're planting, they're doing a tree planting ceremony at the rec center. And so there's events like that happening all across the country, starting now, going through next year, with one of the giant events being July 3rd, 2026, a parade in Philadelphia. And our pie-in-the-sky vision is that we will have a group like this made up of students from all the different county schools that is going to apply to maybe be in that parade. That's what we're shooting for. So he started a club at his school this year. I started a club at this school. And so these guys signed up for Drum and Fife Club. You thought getting a recorder in 3rd grade was bad. I sent home fifes with these people and a pack of earplugs because they're really loud. So I wanted to just showcase them a little bit. We only meet, clubs are fairly infrequent, especially when you're working on a skill. Like, are we sharing this? Okay. So we're going to play 3 short little tunes for you. Feel free to applaud in between, but we're just going to kind of keep going. We're going to play the Bluebells of Scotland, Old Dan Tucker, and Yankee Doodle. So I could tell you a whole bunch about it, and I figured if you wanted to know more, you could ask me about it later, so I don't take a ton of time at the concert. But it is super, super cool, and I'm really hopeful that we have a really cool project for Indiana County here in the near future. So, like Dr. Rummel said, this curtain's going to open, and the 7th and 8th grade band is going to be ready to go, and these guys need to get added into that. So we need to take one of these drums up to the drum set, and the rest of you go get your instruments and head up there.
my name is Emery Derry. The next piece the band will perform is called Irish Air and Dance. This piece is based on two contrasting Irish folk songs. The Minstrel Boy, which was written by Thomas More for his friends who were killed during the 1798 rebellion of the United Irishmen, and The Girl I Left Behind, which is an old Irish dance tune. We hope you enjoy Irish Air and Dance.
Hi, my name is Gabe Garzarelli. The next piece the band will perform is Souvenirs. Sit back and imagine a trip to the Pittsburgh Zoo as you listen to these short movements which depict the excitement of entering a zoo and portraits of birds, elephants, a merry-go-round, pandas, seals and lions, and walruses. We hope you have fun listening to Souvenirs.
name is Piper Kosneski-Allen. The next piece the band will perform you might recognize from the 2004 Disney Pixar film The Incredibles. The soundtrack for the movie won numerous awards for Best Score and was nominated for the Grammy Award for Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media. This tune will feature a rhythm section with Ian Nepper on piano, Dominic Dongilla on bass, and Josh Price on drum set with the iconic conga solos of Amelia Nelson and Ana Matos.
There's no piano in this one. We changed our mind. But here we go with The Incredibles. All right, the last tune that this band is going to play before we have two combined numbers is called The Chimes of Liberty. And it's been kind of a joke all semester. I didn't, on purpose, plan like a patriotic concert, but we had lots of freedom and liberty and drums and fife tonight. So it was all great, but it kind of came about on accident. I was like, wow, we've got lots of titles with like liberty and freedom. And but anyway, this one is a cool piece. It's your standard march. It's kind of it's a workout for these kids, especially our brass players. There's a big flute section feature in here that we had to work really, really hard on. These guys, all of the kids really, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they work really hard. This stuff doesn't like happen on accident. They spend lots of time. Most of these kids have no win period, no study hall. They're down here in band Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If they're in chorus, they're down there Tuesdays and Thursdays, and if they're in both, they're down here every single day. So they've made the decision that this is something they want to do, and I am proud of them for it. So as we play our last tune, The Chimes of Liberty, we hope you enjoy it. All right, give us a moment here, and we'll be right back. All right, and our last tune of the evening, we did a combined number not this past December, but the December before, called Jambo Rafiki, and I thought about making it a tradition, and then I decided not to this last concert, but a bunch of the older kids were asking all year, are we gonna play Jambo Rafiki again? And once I decided to do a combined zigzag, Jambo Rafiki just seemed to be like a perfect fit while we were up here. So I'd like to just thank you, the parents, for all of your support running around the kids and buying the instruments and the reeds and the oil and helping encourage them whenever they may not want to be in band every single day, but you give them that nudge and say, hey, it's really gonna be worth it. I tell them all the time, I've never met an adult that regrets having been in band, but I meet adults all the time that say, I wish somebody just told me to stick with it. I wish I just stuck with it when I was a kid. And so as we wrap up this last tune here, the 8th graders going up to the high school, it is the goal of every music teacher ever that you would stick with music your entire life, so make the schedule work and be in band in the high school. And I think I got all of the things I wanted to say. Thanks, Dr. Rummel back there, for making this ship go round. And are we ready? They look ready. Okay. Here we go. Jambo Rafiki. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you at all of the various, I know the high school concert is Thursday this week, and there's tons of music stuff happening around. So thanks so much, and your kids are all back here this time in the orchestra room and the music room, so probably that hallway is your best bet for finding your kids. Thanks so much. Whoops.